think Simona is still not arrived, so let me go to Christine first. Oh, there she is. Yeah, I think so too. Christine, why don't you go first? Christine Matthews is the Deputy Director of the UNHCR office here in Munich. Please, you have.
Thank you. And I'd like to take the opportunity to thank the Institute of Economics and Peace for organizing this event around the 10th edition of the 2016 Global Index. Given the intense international and UN focus on refugees this year, as well as the preparations for the 19th September high-level meeting on addressing large movements of refugees and migrants, I felt it was appropriate to focus my interventions on three issues that bring together some of the findings of the Global Peace Index as they relate to refugees and IDPs, and the discussions now underway on how the international community can better respond and share responsibility for addressing their needs. First, I'd like to mention conflict prevention and refugee-producing countries. Both the Global Index and the recent Secretary General's report on addressing large movements of refugees and migrants cite armed conflict and violence as main drivers and root causes of forced displacement. One of the key indicators used by the Global Peace Index is refugees and IDPs as a percentage of the population. This indicator has highlighted a deterioration throughout 2015 as the number of forcibly displaced people globally reached over 60 million, of which 22 million are refugees. The index underscored the magnitude of the crisis by noting that 1 in every 133 people are displaced. The index also notes acceptance of the rights of others as a positive peace factor. Strong governance and the rule of law institutions are needed to achieve this, to prevent human rights violations from occurring, and to address issues of exclusion, marginalization, and discrimination that contribute to forced displacement. Therefore, it is not surprising that the countries lowest on the Peace Index are among the countries producing the largest number of refugees. Syria is the lowest ranked country on the Peace Index and has the highest percentage of its population displaced. In order to reduce the flows of refugees, the drivers of displacement in refugee-producing countries must be addressed. There is clear recognition within the international community and the UN that conflict prevention efforts are paramount. Greater investment and early action are needed to address root causes before major conflicts erupt and displacement occurs. The findings of the Global Peace Index support this conclusion. My second point is on the need for responsibility sharing and refugee hosting countries. The vast majority of those displaced, an estimated 86%, are hosted by developing countries, and many of these same host countries are ranked low on the Peace Index. It is clear that those countries hosting large numbers of refugees require greater support and solidarity from the international community. The index confirms this, noting that the surge in refugees and IDPs illustrates that direct violence has a tremendous social and economic ramifications. The Secretary General and UNHCR call for member states to commit to a global compact to ensure greater responsibility sharing in responding to large movements of refugees and to ensure that these responses are comprehensive and predictable. Responsibility sharing can take different forms, including financial and in-kind support, technical assistance, legal or policy measures, and increased resettlement or other pathways for admissions. Improved coordination between development and humanitarian actors is also needed to ensure that the medium to longer-term needs of refugees and host communities are met. My third and final point is on the solutions for refugees as a positive impact on peace indicators. The Secretary General calls for a global compact on responsibility sharing, includes a call for solutions as an integral part of any comprehensive response to forced displacement. Voluntary return, greater integration in hosting communities, resettlement, or admission to third countries. These are solutions that allow refugees to move on with their lives in safety and security, and are essential to address related Global Peace Index indicators that continue to deteriorate. However, given the increasingly intractable nature of conflicts, a significant number of refugees find themselves in protracted displacement, sometimes for decades. Without peace, the conditions conducive for voluntary return and safety and dignity are limited. Voluntary repatriation rates are at their lowest since the 1980s, with only 127,000 refugees repatriating globally in 2015. Even after a peace agreement is signed, it is essential that underlying drivers of conflict do not re-emerge. To avoid the social and economic ramifications of the conflict articulated in the Global Peace Index, continued attention and investment by the international community is required, as are stronger linkages between the humanitarian and development systems. Absent this, refugee returns may not be sustainable, with displacement occurring once again. In conclusion, a global compact on responsibility sharing to address refugee flows would contribute significantly to improving key indicators and moving those countries at the lower end of the Global Peace Index to the higher end. The findings of the Global Peace Index support the conclusions that we need to increase our efforts to prevent conflict, address underlying root causes, respond in a comprehensive and holistic manner through a global compact on responsibility sharing to large movements of refugees, and to strengthen the linkages between humanitarian and development support to both host countries and countries of origin. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Christine, and thank you for putting also the emphasis on prevention of violent conflict and the addressing of root causes, which I think is really critical, and certainly came out of the three reviews that we have been conducted over the last year and a half or so in the peace and security area as really one of the central themes that the UN needs to be much better at in addressing.